Blessings and blessings, y'all. I am back in the building. It's one of those things where whenever we're about to do Bridge, which is our 2-day workshop, and then our 3-day, which is Extreme Leadership, I start to think about the people who are on their way to be with us. And in doing so, I begin to think about how/why they're coming. And without saying, because there's no fault in any of this, everybody is usually dealing with some type of wound that they received from childhood. And there are some accidental, toxic shaming patterns that happen as parents, and your parents, and even you as a parent. Hopefully this isn't happening, but it probably is to some degree. And the point I want to make, and I hope you guys can hear me clearly, is if your parents could not handle certain emotions, like within themselves, 9 out of 10, they projected and shamed you for those emotions. I.e., if your parent, and I will explain that. So if your parent, I always talk about me, that's the funny thing. So if your parent, let's say, had a hard time with sadness. They just always had to be chipper and everything had to be okay. And you started to experience sadness. What can accidentally happen is the moment you start to experience said sadness, they begin to say things like, it's okay. You got to see the other side of it. There's a silver lining in everything. So what happens is you, I, all of us start to receive the signal that that emotion is not okay. And by the time you're 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, you no longer have access to it. Because when your nervous system was forming and your ideas and your maps, your mental maps of the world were forming, you received a message that it wasn't okay. Let me know if this is landing. This becomes accidental shaming. And most people aren't aware of it. Yes, it could be a choice. And also, some people just aren't aware. They think they're masking it in positivity and not necessarily harming their child. Now, yes, there's other forms of this, like saying big boys don't cry and don't be a wussy or things like that. That's purposeful, because in that parent's mind, and let me land this for everybody, every single one of your parents had a positive intention, even if they did some of the most terrible stuff. Even if it was the most terrible stuff to you now and your adult brain. So the father or mother who says big boys don't cry, don't be a wussy, man up, believes that they are preparing their son for manhood. And they can only share from their mental maps and how they were treated as a child. So, back to it. If you experienced, let's say, a parent who wasn't in tune with their anger or even their joy, and you started to experience certain levels of joy that they couldn't handle, then what tended to happen is that you receive these signals that it's not okay. Now the signals are literally what they're saying to us, and then there's what they're being. That's the accidental part, because you can't teach somebody what you don't know yourself. And so if your parent was disconnected from their anger, their passion, their fire, And you saw that. And you now, as an adult, are asking yourself, where's my passion, my anger, my fire? They didn't do that on purpose. They just didn't have access to it themselves. It was so outside of the realm of what they grew up in, or what was okay, or maybe the opposite of what they grew up in. So they had a father or a mother, or both, who were so tapped into it that it was toxic and abusive, and so therefore they disconnected from it. Then they have you, and now generationally they're passing you something else. Oh, this is so deep and so beautiful if you really let it land. There are 5 core emotions that we're all experiencing: fear, sadness, anger, joy, sexual feelings. Did I say them all? Fear, anger, sadness, joy, sexual feelings. Yep. And everything else is an offshoot of those things. Now, we go deep into this in the Bridge Experience and Extreme Leadership and all the work that I do, essentially. But if any of you are hearing this message and want to get down with this, please jump in that room tomorrow, or in Australia because it's filling up fast. bridgeexperience.com. bridgeexperience.com. As for me, one of you guys asked me, so how does this play out in my life? Well, as I mentioned, 2 amazing, beautiful parents who did the best they could from where they could with the tools and consciousness they had available. However, there were certain emotions that I never really got to see at full tilt. One being joy, like the highest heights of joy. Another, my mother, I found out later that my mother went through bouts of depression, which I never knew. And yet I'm sure I knew. And so, watching those things, including the joy, has made me, is because awareness comes before choice. The moment you have an awareness for something, you can do something about it. This awareness of not allowing oneself to truly celebrate the pure magic and essence of beingness itself, not reason, but reasonless joy. I never saw reasonless joy. Hear that. Not attached to anything other than, thank you, God, for this beautiful life I have. That was not modeled for me. Doesn't make them wrong. They had positive intentions and did the best they could. However, these are things that I did not receive as a child per se. Not intentionally. And so we're all working through some things. I hope this landed for all of you guys. Blessings and blessings. My name is Preston Smiles, for those of you who may be seeing this for the first time. Nothing but love. I hope that I get to work with you someday in some capacity. Peace, grease, love, and light.